That's a hard thing to watch, isn't it? But firstly, I want to say thank you very much, Tracy, for coming along and speaking to us today. Really appreciate the support that you show, not only for the issue, but for our party. So thanks. Many people, including lots of people in this room, have a personal story that has led us to the point where we are determined to do all we can to bring about law reform for voluntary euthanasia. But the reason why I decided to show you Brittany Maynard's story is because I think it shows so perfectly what is possible when compassion and the law come together. As Tracy mentioned, my beautiful mother Jan had exactly the same type of brain cancer as Brittany Maynard, the most aggressive grade 4 glioblastoma multiforme. Just like Brittany, she knew that there was nothing that doctors could do to save her life, and she too wanted to live as long as possible. But just like Brittany, she did not want to be forced to endure the very end stages of this awful cancer. But that's where the similarity ends. Brittany was lucky. Not lucky to have been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and certainly not at the age of 29, but lucky that she lived in a country that has already legalised voluntary assisted dying. Not in her home state of California, as we just saw, but in Oregon, where they've had the Oregon Dying with Dignity Act for 17 years. So Brittany was able to move to Oregon with her husband and her parents, and she was able to die peacefully at home at a time of her choosing, surrounded by the people she loved. And that's what my mother wanted, but that was a choice that she was denied, because having that choice here in Australia is illegal. So that's why we're all here today. That's why I stood as the lead Senate candidate in the federal election last year. It's why, with the help of my small committee, we registered the party as a state party in New South Wales, and it's why I'm very proud to say that I will be their lead candidate in next year's state election. But I'm not going to be alone. We know that in order to give ourselves the best chance of achieving a voice in the New South Wales Parliament, we will need to run a full list of candidates. Without a full list, voters would be forced to number boxes below the line, and we know that that really limits our chances of success. So we will run the full 21 candidates, and that way people can vote one for voluntary euthanasia and send a very clear message to the major parties that we're not willing to wait any longer for this important law reform. I'm really proud to say that we have most of our candidates here today, and I'm sure that, and each of them, well, many of them with their own personal stories, but some of them just with a really strong belief that dying with dignity should be a basic human right. So when we asked for expressions of interest, we were thrilled by the response. We've been able to select a diverse group of candidates, from the very young to the very old, from the country to the city, men and women. So from our youngest candidate, 21-year-old Joshua Britt, who's here today somewhere, who's studying political science at Sydney University, to our oldest candidate, Donald Bailey, who was forced to travel to the other side of the world just so that his terminally ill wife could die on her own terms. Donald is here as well. Then there's Natasha Mulhall, whose mother, Loredana Mulhall, has advanced progressive multiple sclerosis and who has been fighting for years for law reform. To Amanda Miller, who has only recently joined our campaign after watching her young son Nathan die a painful and traumatic death from bowel cancer just a few months ago. I wish we could hear from all our candidates, but I'm sure that they would all be happy to speak to any of you during the morning tea. Before I finish, I've got an important message that I'd like to get across. We know that the major parties will do all they can to try and discourage voters from voting for a single issue party like ours. They're going to say things like it's a wasted vote or your vote will end up somewhere else, but that's simply not true. The preferences, the voting system in the upper house is different to that of the Senate. Our party does not determine the preferences, you do. So each voter can vote 1 for the Voluntary Euthanasia Party and then put a 2 in the box of the party that they would normally vote for, be that the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the Nationals, the Greens, or even another minor party. As Barry said, I think we can make a difference here in New South Wales, And I certainly promise that if I'm elected to the upper house, I will do all I can to work with my parliamentary colleagues to bring about voluntary assisted law reform, hopefully in the next term of the New South Wales Parliament. There are many people, as I said, who have spoken up in Australia in recent times. Loredana, who, by the way, sends her apologies. Loredana was hoping to be here today, but unfortunately she rang me last night and she's in a lot of pain at the moment, so she sends her apologies. So there's Loredana, Dr. Sarah Edelman, who's here, President of Dying with Dignity, Gideon Cordova at the back, our party secretary, people like James Mackay, Ina Ranke, Max Bromson, whose sister Kerry is sitting at the front and is now our national convener. And of course, very recently, a gentleman in Victoria that maybe many of you have heard of, Peter Short. They've all got their stories. But a few months ago, a young girl contacted me to ask if there was something that she could do to help bring about change. Her mother's best friend had to commit suicide when she could no longer cope with the devastating effects of a rare and incurable blood disease. This had a profound effect on Lily, and she wants to say a few words today. So will you please welcome 14-year-old Lilly van Lent.
Thank you, Shayne, for this opportunity to share my story and speak here today in the hope that I can be a part of the change that you and your party are so passionate about creating. As Shayne said when she introduced me, my own personal experience has influenced my opinions on the matter of euthanasia, and as a result, I believe that everybody deserves to have the right to be able to choose to die with dignity when faced with a terminal illness. 3 years, 8 months, and 28 days ago, I was left a letter from my mother's best friend, who had always been a big part of both of our lives. This was the last letter I would receive from Jo. Joanna McDonald was always one of my mother's closest friends. My memory of Joanna is that she had been there ever since I can remember. I remember Jo having the biggest blue eyes and the wildest blonde hair. She was always a part of our family. She was a very vivacious, bubbly and loving person. Jo had always had a passion for fitness. About 5 years before her suicide, my mum and Jo's other friends started to notice she was having difficulties with memory loss, balance and choking on her food. These symptoms began to progress and worsen, and she was eventually diagnosed with a rare and incurable disease, progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP. The disease got so bad that Joanna was forced to end her life by suicide, as she had no control over her bowel movements, balance, and she would often choke on her food. A month before this, she had attempted to end her life, but her attempt was unsuccessful and caused her greater discomfort. Had Jo been able to access medical assistance in order to end her life, she would have endured a far less painful death and died with some dignity. In the letter that Jo wrote to me, she urged me to be a lovely person and to cherish my talents, remembering that not everybody can win. Her words, "We love you whatever, win or lose," have encouraged me to be the type of person who will give things a go, even with the risk of not coming out of it on top. This attitude has played a part in my standing here in front of you all today. At the beginning of the school year, the whole of Year 9 at Pymble Ladies College were, as part of the Right Here, Right Now assignment, given the task of researching a topic of interest with a view to making a difference. When I first presented my idea to my classmates, many of them were unaware of euthanasia and the political and legal issues that surround it. I was surprised that the issue was so unknown amongst people of my age. Despite being such a controversial topic, I decided to research it anyway, as I felt this was an ideal opportunity for me to make even a small difference by forcing the topic into the forefront of the minds of my school community. Even this small difference would have been a success. However, my research and desire to make a difference have led to great opportunities, such as speaking here today. I want to take this opportunity to show you how this issue affects everybody, young and old, And no matter how young you are, your opinion counts and your voice should be heard. I implore you to, if you're young, believe your opinion matters and should be heard. And if you know young people, encourage discussion about euthanasia and action that can be taken towards voluntary assisted dying law reform. I hope that Joe's story, my story, and the story shared by others here today will encourage you to vote for the Voluntary Euthanasia Party. I am currently too young, however, I hope my message resonates with you, and through your votes, this important change can finally happen.
Thank you so much, Lily. I know that takes a lot of courage to get up in front of a group of people, and especially, you know, when you're talking about a loss of a dear friend, relative, whatever. You can see, I mean, even watching Brittany's videos, very hard to not well up seeing that. But probably everybody knows now that Brittany did end up achieving that peaceful end. She did release another video just a few days before she did end her life, just, 10 days ago, I think. And she said that she still found she had a little bit of enjoyment, but obviously not. She was at the end stages, and so she was able to choose her time. So I'm really happy for her, and I just wish that Lily's, mother's friend Jo had had the same choice, and my mother had had the same choice. I just wanted to say thank you to all the people that have sent back forms. We've got lots of volunteers for election day. We've been able to raise enough money to get our electoral material printed, or at least we're well on the way to that. So I'm sure that includes some of you here. So just wanted to say thank you very much. And we've just got some flowers we'd like to present to Tracy. And also, as Barry said, you're the people that can help us achieve our goals. And we have plenty of brochures. And so if you'd like to take as many as you want, we've got a box full outside. So just ask and you can distribute those brochures and help us spread the word. So thanks again, Tracy, and thank you to everyone.